We're here at historic Washington Hall for DEFY, and it is the Defyant Ones. We got Lucha Lit tonight.
The 2010 and 2011 Mr. Puss in Boots Lucha Lit in the house.
Lince Dorado, what's going on, man? How's your night going so far?
It's pretty good, dude. I'm here in Washington. I hit a dispensary before I got here. Killed it with Gringo Loco tonight. I might hit another dispensary before I fly. I don't know.
All right. So when you hit a dispensary, as is legal here in Washington, what do you go for? Do you go for the pre-rolls? Do you go for the flower?
I'm a flower guy, so I definitely like the flower. Not too big of a edible or concentrate guy. I don't do vapes anymore. Just straight flower, man. I'm an old school blunt flower kind of guy. Anything hybrid, sativa, indica, weed is weed to me. So if it's good, it's good.
You ever thought about getting like a weed sponsorship?
Dude, yeah, man. I've been trying to get somebody to get me the Lucha Lit brand. Let's go. It's like perfect.
Yeah.
And not only that, it's like, man, you got a luchador. It's all branding. So like, it's kind of like a win-win. If anybody wants it, yo, hit me up. Nice, man.
Okay, so what came first, weed or wrestling?
Oh, definitely wrestling. Weed was super taboo growing up. Growing up and like in the hood, you know, weed was like considered a drug. And my dad was a really big pothead, and you know, he was stigmatized with, you know, being a pothead and drugs and stuff like that. So I actually didn't smoke weed until probably I was like 20. Honestly, I got hurt in wrestling. I was already wrestling, and I was wrestling my boy, and like I said, I was hurt to the point where I was either going to pull out or, you know, wrestle hurt. And because I was wrestling my boy, it's like, well, why don't we just smoke and kind of like get the pain away? And honestly, that's the reason why I started smoking. And it's literally changed my life. It's helped me out a lot. I don't drink. I don't do pills. All I do is smoke weed, man. Smoke weed and wrestle.
That could have been a game changer during the 90s when so many people got addicted to.
So many people got addicted to pills and alcohol. Imagine. And that was a time too, like, they started testing people for weed in the 90s. And I think that was like the biggest downfall because, again, people who smoke weed, they don't get into trouble. They smoke, they hang out with people, they go to their room, sleep.
Eat some ice cream, maybe.
That's it, man. Yeah. They're causing no troubles. They ain't going to try to like fight anybody. But once they kind of like turned it around, yeah, it made a lot of problems. Then I was fortunate enough that me and a couple guys, while I was in WWE, gave them the same argument. Like, hey, look, we don't drink, we don't take pills, and you're charging us to smoke weed. And literally 2 weeks later, they dropped it out of the
wow.
Yeah. So other than that, and then that whole environment changed. The whole locker room environment changed. You could see everybody smoking and like being in the right state of mind to perform. And that was the best thing. Like everybody was able to do it and still be in the right state of mind to go out there and kill it, like how they're doing and how we're doing. How I'm doing.
So let's go back to your journey, you know, getting into wrestling. You were a wrestling fan as a kid?
Yes. Yes and no. I was a Lucha Libre fan. Okay. Growing up, Hispanic and Latino, I grew up with a lot of Lucha Libre and a lot of like Puerto Rican wrestling. But to me, that kind of looked different than what I would see on American TV. Because what I was being shown looked more like a sport. And in 94, man, my uncle came over, my step uncle, he came over with the 94 Royal Rumble. And he was like, first of all, you remember VHS, VCRs, and you could fast forward it in fast motion. And like, so he's playing this VHS in fast motion. And my brain is melting. And then he pauses, like, watch this. And it's Undertaker versus Yoko castle match. And that was the first time I ever seen American wrestling to the point where I was like, this looks like Lucha Libre because of the ring, but the object is to put him in this box. He's a dead man. He's a sumo. It blew my mind. Yeah. It blew my mind to the point where it's like, you couldn't tell me anything else, man. I've had jobs like that got me to where I needed to be, but I knew I was going to be a pro wrestler. Like, I was a teacher for about 7 years. And while I was teaching, I would still think of wrestling. Like, it was crazy. Like, wrestling consumes my life.
So what got you to be a teacher, man? Like, you obviously probably went to school for it. What did you teach?
I taught math.
Okay.
I was a math teacher. I taught mostly high school, 10th, 11th, and 12th. I taught some remedial math in college level. Again, it was just an easy thing. Like, math was easy for me. I didn't really apply myself in high school. I scored a perfect score on the SATs on the math. I actually wanted to be a cook, and then the Art Institute of Philadelphia, that tuition was crazy. So I was like, okay, let me be an art teacher. I loved art. But in Jersey, you know, the art teachers they don't leave unless they retire. And I didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
So my advisor was like, hey man, you literally scored a perfect score on the SATs in math and in the placement test. Why don't you just do math? And I was like, well, you know what? It's an easy job. I got the weekends off, and it's a job. It gets me from what I need to do. And I taught literally until the day that I went to WWE.
That's crazy.
I got signed in July, and I was already hired by a school because I didn't know what I was going to do. And they let me stay until literally the last day that I was able to. I found them a teacher. And long story short, it was great. I really do love teaching. I love teaching now, pro wrestling. I love coaching. I do that now. So I kind of still in the teaching game. But it was just a way to get from A to B, knowing that wrestling was going to be my job.
Wow. So when you were teaching math, you were also wrestling on the weekends and whatnot?
Yep. 2-3 times a week. I would go Monday through Friday. Friday, I would either do a show in Florida or fly out Friday, do a show, Saturday, Sunday, and then fly home literally Sunday night, Monday morning, and then go right to class. And sometimes be half dead, half awake. But at the end of the day, I kind of made my schedule so that way it was easy for me, But at the end of the day, it still was a grind. It was still a grind.
What did your students know?
Some did because I would also hold like charity events at my schools. We would pick clubs that we thought needed a little bit of love, and we would do like wrestling shows, and I'd give half to them and then the other half to the other wrestlers. So some people picked up on it, but at the end, when I did leave to WWE, I left a sign on my board for my class the next day, and I said, "Hey, catch me on the USA channel."
Nice.
Yeah. So, and I still keep in touch with all my students.
Awesome.
I would get invited constantly to graduations, whether it's college or, hey, Mr. I got a new kid. Look at him. I'm like, oh, great. So I was able to make really good connections with my students, and, I hope you guys are doing great.
So were you just, what made that you stay connected, because there's always that one teacher for kids that like really makes that connection. Were you just really down to earth and like?
You have to be down to earth. I think if you're a high school teacher, no matter what class you teach, you have to be down to earth, number one. And my students respected that. They knew that I was no bullshit. Like, I don't tolerate a lot of things. You want to do the work? Great. If you don't want to do the work, sit in the back and leave everybody else alone. My class was very self-governed. But even though I was a math teacher, I felt like I was more of a life coach. I knew what the system of the education system wanted to do, and that's fail the kids. And my job was not to fail them. So I gave them every tool, every opportunity to not be a statistic. And a lot of kids realize like, oh, this guy cares about me more than my mom and dad. Yeah. Because I did, I did. It wasn't because I cared about their grades or anything. I really cared about them as a student because I had teachers who cared about me when I was a hoodlum in the hood, and like a bad child. And if it wasn't for my teachers and amateur wrestling and wrestling in general, I wouldn't be here having this conversation with you. I'd be dead on the street like my dad or, a drug dealer. So at the end of the day, education and wrestling saved my life.
So what was, before WWE, what was the first like wrestling company organization that really got you, kind of your foot in the door with wrestling on the weekends and whatnot?
Well, my promotion that I worked for growing up or getting in was Chikara. Eddie Kingston was also from Chikara. So that kind of kept us busy because they did run monthly, and it was a big stable in the Northeast in the early 2000s. And then after I kind of felt like I did a lot and everything I could there, I decided to leave. I did everything I could in the Northeast. That's where originally I'm from. And in the Northeast in the early 2000s, you had everything. ROH, CZW, Jersey All Pro. You had New York. You had Delaware, PA, IW. You had all these places that are still in existence. Yeah. But like, man, back in the day, it was the place to be. And then once I did everything in the Northeast, I started branching out to the Midwest, the Chicagos, the Gali, Lucha Libre, the Dreamwaves, AAW, First Wrestling in Minnesota. They all kind of, helped me come in and do my thing. And then once I did that, I was like, I gotta leave again, because that's how it is. You don't want to get stuck in one spot. And I left to Florida, and I dominated Florida. I did everything. I wrestled everybody I could there. And by that time, I was already, I felt like I did a lot. I did Japan, I did Mexico, I did TNA at that time, I did NWA, I did everything besides WWE. And then I got the call, and
Yeah, tell me about that. The story of kind of like learning. Was it someone who scouted you? Do you remember, who you met?
So long story short, never had a tryout. I was making gear for Sami Callihan, Charlotte, Bailey, Pac, and a couple other people in NXT. And I'm not the type of guy to be like, hey, can you put in a word for me? I'm more the type of guy of like, give me the email or a number, let me do the work. Yeah. And my boy Sammy gave me the email to the guy who was in charge of the talent. And I sent this dude an email 14 months in a row. 14 months, bro. A year and 2 months. Just keep going. Did not get a response. Finally, he responds to me. He says, and I remember very verbatim, if we wanted you, you would know. And no, hold on, wait. And so a lot of people would have that same like reaction. I had a different one. I said, he fucking knows who I am. That shit's not going to the spam. Yeah. He knows who I am now. So that way if shit pops down, I'm going to be the first one. Then I started hearing rumblings of this global cruiserweight classic or global classic. And Gabe Sapolsky and Claudio Castagnoli, who was one of my trainers and I trained with him, threw my name in the hat. And they were basically saying, hey, this dude is local. He's a great wrestler, great luchador. He represents, he could do all the styles. You should give him a chance. And I was making gear for Bailey. And my phone rings and it vibrates. And my phone never vibrates. It's always like that, hidden like talent that, oh, I think I got a text message. Let me check it. Sure. Kind of thing. Well, this time it was vibrating and it was a 203 number. And I was like, man, 203 unmarked. I don't know who this is. Hello. And he's like, hello, is this Lince? And I'm like, yeah, who's this? And he's like, Darren. I'm like, Darren, who the fuck is Darren? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, William Regal. I said, hold on one second. Shit, I just botched that one. I said, sorry, Mr. Regal, that was my brother. How can I help? And then that was it. Long story short, he asked me if I had signed with anybody. At that time, no. I was actually going to go to Lucha Underground. I was going to go to AAA. And, but ultimately I knew like if WWE was going to call me, I knew I was going to end up there. And, it's funny because I gave him my word that I would show up to the Cruiserweight Classic and TNA hit me up actually about maybe like a couple of days later. And they were holding a taping the same week as Cruiserweight Classic on a Tuesday. Now, Cruiserweight Classic's taped on a Thursday. That same Tuesday, I wrestled for TNA. Wow. And I wrestled Mandrews. You can look it up. It's online. Mandrews versus Ballum. And man, we had a banger of a match. Banger. It was so good that Al Snow, Bruce Pritchard, and I'm looking at this guy. I feel like his name is Brian, but they all offered me a contract right there and then. Wow. And I told them without even stepping into WWE, without even having any words, I said, thank you, but I know WWE is going to sign me. I appreciate it. I said, okay, good luck. And then, the next day or on that Thursday, me and Ali had the shortest match. I felt like we were snubbed because we were given the shortest match. And not only that, my opponent actually didn't show. They actually gave me an option who to wrestle, and I picked Ali. Nice. And I told Ali, I said, hey, listen, man, they're giving us 8 minutes. Everybody else had 15, 20 minutes. I was like, they're giving us 8 minutes. Let's go out there and let's show them that in 8 minutes we could both get over. And we did, you know, and that ultimately got us both signed that match. And like I said, very fortunate that I didn't have no tryout. Yeah. I'm very fortunate I didn't spend a lot of time at NXT. My journey was my journey. Yeah. Can't take it back. I'm grateful for it.
It's cool that both you and Ollie are making your Defy, your first time here, Defy tonight. That's really cool that, you shared that connection and then you were both in WWE together. That must have been special.
Yeah, me and Ali have a very special, and it'll come out eventually, our relationship as far as before WWE, during WWE, and he said it in interviews before, and I don't want to take credit, but, I would like to think that I helped influence Ali get signed by WWE, not because of our matches. Ali had a great job as a cop prior to WWE. And, but I also knew like, hey man, you're a family man, you got kids. This job is going to be life-changing for you. You should take this. You should take this. And it took a while. And he'll tell you, I sent him my first check. I'll tell you what it was. It was for like $8,900. And I was like, bro, this is life-changing for your family. You need to like leave that job and do this. And he did. And, lucky for him, it did change his life. It changed all our lives. You know, our time there did change all our lives.
So, we don't need to talk too much about the WWE stuff, but whatever
you want to talk about, man.
What are some lessons that you learned? What did you take from your time there that really, helped you become who you are today?
I ain't no bitch. That's what I learned. That I figured out, like, yo, if we're in the same company, same room, if we're over the age of 18, we could talk like adults. I'm not going to talk to you submissively. I'm not going to talk to you like a pendejo. You know, we're going to talk like men. How I'm talking to this gentleman is how I talk to Vince and all those other motherfuckers there. And guess what? It got me. I was there for 7 years and I was totally fine, because at the end of the day, that place is a shark tank. You know, they're all sharks. So if they smell blood because you're a bitch, they're going to eat you up, right? But if they also realize, like, oh, this guy's kind of like a man, like, you know, they're going to treat you like a man. And to me, I learned a lot about myself. I learned how to be a man, you know, there. I grew up fatherless and I grew up, you know, very familyless. And, you know, all of this is very still brand new to me, but I learned how to grow up and be a man. I learned how to do I'm still learning some shit, man. I'm still learning some shit, but I learned that. I learned also, you know, storytelling. I thought I knew what it was until I was there. I learned how to make good connections and how to make good business decisions rather than think about, you know, being selfish. So it's okay to be selfish, but you got to be business selfish, you know? So I learned a lot. And I learned a lot of stuff from like Shawn Michaels, Pat Patterson, Paul Heyman, all those guys who you look at me and you're like, this is just a lucha guy, but they saw more than just a lucha guy. And I think ultimately that's what helps me get from, you know, where I was to where I am right now.
What did your kids think of your action figure?
They like it. They thought it was really cool. The first one, because I had three, but the first one had a chase and a normal one. They thought it was fucking cool, man. I still job out into all their matches that they do because of Finn Balor's my son's favorite. So I'll always job out to him. But at the end of the day, for me to have an action figure is one of the fucking check marks of my bucket list. Not only that, but I made the gear. I designed the t-shirt for Lucha House Party. That's all on the package. Yeah, man. And nobody could take that away from me, man.
That's like, your IP.
That's
right on there.
IP. That's my trademark. That, you know, because I had trademarked my name before WWE. They let me use it in WWE. I still use it today. And, you know, never gave me shit about it. So I was very smart about it. You know, I'm a businessman before I'm a wrestler.
Hell yeah.
You know, so at the end of the day, you got to, if you want to survive and make money, you got to be a businessman.
So I'm a cat guy. Are you a cat guy?
I do have 2 cats.
Okay.
Yeah. What kind do you have?
It's actually they're not my cats.
You just said you have cats.
They're my roommate's cats. Okay. I'm a cat guy. I love cats. Okay. I love cats. I don't have my own cats, but they're my roommate's cats. One's a fat cat, the other one's a skinny cat. What about yours?
Okay, so I have a tuxedo cat, black and white.
Yeah.
I got him from after Hurricane Matthews. He was a rescue cat. He let me pick him up and everything. I took him home. Then the other cat I have is a tortie cat. She's a little spicy.
Oh, wow.
Her name's Lulu, the luchadora. She's spicy as shit. She's from Texas. Same thing, rescue cat.
Yeah.
Saw her at a live event and I was like, I got to take her with me. Yeah, just took her. So I do have 2 cats. I did have another one, but you know, that's long gone.
Yeah.
I wasn't always a cat person. They did grow on me. You know how it is. Cats, animals pick you.
Yeah.
You know, so I felt some kind of love. But when they go, man, I'm gonna be devastated. I might have to retire from life because that's my babies.
So this was your first Defy event.
Hopefully not my last.
Yeah.
Yo, put in a word for me.
I will, man. People are going to love this podcast, and they're going to learn, you know, about you, and they're probably going to bring some weed for you next time.
Hey, come to my merch table. You can pay in weed if you want all day.
So tell me about your experience, man. What'd you think of Defy and the Defiance?
Dude, it's been a long time. I've been trying to get out here for about 2 years. I'm glad that it worked out this time. The fans were incredible. The moment that I walked out, I felt the energy. They got the act. They knew I was a cat. I got a bunch of meow chants. I got Puss in Boots. They got every nuance that I was trying to do, you know, and there's things out there that I didn't even know I was going to do that I did. And
referee didn't know either.
Not sorry. But it was great, dude. It was really, it kind of reminded me of an old school ECW feeling where it's like super intimate, which I prefer, you know.
With the balcony, everyone on top of each other.
I was waiting for Gringo to bring me up there so I could drive, but we didn't never happen. Next time. But yeah, it was great, man. And not only that, to showcase the Lucha Libre style, like I said, in the ring. Doesn't matter if you're Mexican-born, luchador from a family, a gringo or a Puerto Riqueño. If you are what you say you are, Lucha Libre lives here. And it did with me and a Gringo. I've known Gringo for almost 20 years.
Wow.
And I will say this, between me, Gringo, and Sam Adonis, there is no other authentic Lucha Libre luchadors outside of Mexico besides us three.
Wow. That's awesome. My last question for you, man. It doesn't have to be wrestling related, but if you could pick a scar on your body and tell us the story of how you got the scar.
Well, I got this one. Where is it? This one? Yeah, right here.
Right here.
Right here. I don't know if you guys can see. I did tell my kids that I got bit by a shark, but really what happened was I was a manager at a lifeguard or at a pool. And, after 8 o'clock, the pool closes down and, a bunch of us got some beers and we go to the local dock that's right near us. Well, we're all drinking. Nobody checked to see if there was water, but motherfuckers want to jump in the pool. Who jumped in first? Your boy, like this. But there was no water, dude. So my arm went boom and my fucking collarbone went boom.
Oh.
And I was like, oh. Yeah, so this is my favorite one because it's the stupidest one.
Brutal. Damn. Lince Dorado, any final words for the Defiance?
Hey, man, stay Lucha Lit.
All right. Thank you very much. Lince Dorado here at Defy. Dude, thank you so much.